Hello, I'm Toshio Okada. This is Toshio Okada's manga/anime Night Talks. Today is the Mobile Suit Gundam Lecture, Session 10, Escape from Luna 2. There's something I really need to cover in this preface now. We're up to Episode 4 in the Gundam Breakdown, and since around Episode 2 the lines keep mentioning Minovsky particles and their density. I think it's about time I explain Minovsky particles once, so I'll lay it out here in the preface. From the start, what director Yoshiyuki Tomino disliked when making Gundam was the lies common to robot shows back then. In 1979, when Gundam aired, the latest kind of war was the US-Soviet Cold War, nicknamed the Push-Button War. To sketch war history, very roughly, through the 19th century it was heroes fighting heroes. From the Three Kingdoms era up to the 1800s, the strongest on the field won through courage and personal strength. Then in World War I, victory came from new, scientific weapons. War happens at the front. Bring the most powerful weapons there. But in World War II, even though Nazi Germany built many powerful weapons, they still lost. Why? If World War I meant, quote, war happens at the front, World War II became war is decided before forces even reach the front. It shifted to strategic bombing, to whether you seize air superiority. Victory came from preparation. So in the Cold War of Gundam's broadcast era, war became a contest decided before opponents ever met. Fighter-launched missiles were fired at unseen enemies beyond the horizon. Dogfights, putting an enemy in your sights and firing, belonged to World War I. In the Cold War, you locked targets by radar, and the enemy exploded out of view. But when Gundam was greenlit, sponsors, namely toy companies, wanted simpler, 19th-century-style hero battles instead. No one wanted boring fights, where robots trade missiles from beyond the horizon, and a radar blip just disappears. So Tomino invented Minovsky particles and rolled warfare in Gundam back to the 19th century. Minovsky particles are basically a smokescreen in space that kills radar and radio. If you want more detail, search Minovsky particles. You'll find endless. Most of that is pseudoscience, for example how later sequels apply the idea in various ways. But in the original Mobile Suit Gundam, they're used essentially like a smokescreen. Later, whenever an impossible aircraft design flies, people hand-wave it as an application of Minovsky engineering, but for now, just think smoke. Because of this, ships lose contact with base. It's jamming, communications fail, so battleship combat snaps back to the age of sail. If comms worked, space warships could phone home and to each other, and the plot wouldn't move, so the story puts them in a state where they can't talk. Radar is unreliable too, so guided missiles aren't an option. Instead, mobile suits get close and hit hard. Very 19th century. For robot anime creators, it's a very convenient device. Gundam used Minovsky particles to yank robot warfare back to the Age of Heroes. Other robot anime do heroic stuff too, but many just treat giant robots like kaiju without thinking, like I said in the Godzilla talk. Gundam wanted to incorporate modern technology sensibly, hence Minovsky particles. But as the story advances, even in Gundam, the depiction of war evolves. Early on, it looks like 19th century hero warfare, but it gradually mirrors the evolution of real war. For example, Episode 12, The Threat of Zeon, shows change through the deployment of new weapons, like tanks in World War I. In the Belfast engagement, amphibious mobile suits appear, again a very World War I-like beat. But, in the defense of Jaburo and the assault on Space Fortress Solomon, it's like the Normandy landings, war decided by preparation. And after Solomon falls, Zeon's new weapons, the Bra-Bro and the Elmeth, enable ultra-long-range attacks, showing Vietnam/Cold War style beyond visual range combat. This teaches kids who only watch robot anime what real war is like. It shows that even robot anime can express this much, gradually tracing war's evolution up to the modern day. Seen educationally, that's one role Gundam played. Studio Ghibli and Hayao Miyazaki's films try to teach about nature and Japanese culture, right? Similarly, Tomino's anime has an educational streak, teaching history and war. Of course, Ghibli reflects Miyazaki's own philosophy, and Tomino's works reflect Yoshiyuki Tomino's. Each weaves its worldview into the story, which is interesting. Anyway, at last we're on session 10 of the Gundam lecture, episode 4, Escape from Luna 2. So that covers Minovsky particles for now. From here we'll roll into a lecture recorded 2 years ago. In the first 10 minutes, there's a diagram of the Moon, Earth, Zeon, and Luna 2. Unfortunately, it's wrong. This is the correct layout for the background to today's story. The basic positions of Earth, the Moon, Luna 2, Side 3, and Side 7 are fine, but some other colonies were misplaced. I even wrote notes when I made candy toy colonies, so I should have known the Lagrange points. So why did I blunder like that in the lecture 2 years ago? I actually learned the Gundam setting back in college. When I was watching anime like crazy during the original broadcast, Gakken's Animedia was a magazine that cost only 380 yen. Animage cost over 400, so I bought Animedia. But those articles were sloppy. Writers, knowledge was lax, and materials from Sunrise were lax. So bad info stuck in my head. As I said before, even where White Base's centrifugal gravity section is located, I was influenced by those old magazine layouts, and I carried that mistake into my own talk. So please understand the correct version here. Thank you. These corrections are embarrassing. Laughs. but the overall intent and meaning of the analysis in the lecture don't change. What it explains is the positional relationship of the Moon and Luna 2, and how that shapes Zeon's reach. The point is, the far side, nearer Zeon, is under complete Zeon control, while the side farthest from Zeon is surprisingly tolerated, more or less left alone. Enough preamble, let's start the Gundam lecture. We'll cut once around the middle, and I'll add commentary. Enjoy! Toshio Okada's Mobile Suit Gundam Lecture. Today we cover Episode 4, Escaped from Luna 2. Episodes 1 to 3 form one big story, but from Episode 4 on, high-ranking Earth Federation people we haven't seen start to appear. At the same time, the production setup seems to shift a bit. Maybe episodes 1 to 3 were made solidly in-house, and from 4 they outsourced more. I don't know the details, but the drawings suddenly get rough. It snaps back in episode 5, but the rough art in 4 shows Gundam's swing. There are awful episodes and great ones. Compared to the superb 1 and 2, 4 is especially bad. So you might be appalled around episode 4, but please stick with it. Story-wise, White Base finally slips into Luna 2, the Federation's forward base, after fleeing Char's pursuit. But Major Wakkein, the Luna 2 commander, is a bureaucratic incompetent, which leads to Char attacking the base. White Base barely escapes. And Paulo Cassius, the original captain who favored Bright and the others, dies. White Base is then set to descend to Earth. That's episode 4. People often frame episode 4 as, the Federation is bureaucratic, with especially hard-headed Commander Wakkein. It's often introduced that way. But is that really true? On my blog, I posted reading materials suggesting what Wakkein might actually have been thinking. Today I'll dig further in my own way. Yes, the Federation's bureaucracy is real, and many failures keep appearing. For example, when Amuro visits his hometown, Federation troops occupy his house, loafing and drinking daily. And in the vital Battle of Odessa, there's a near-general selling information to the enemy. And when they finally reach Jaburo, the Federation's HQ, the commanders just hold meetings, out of touch with the front and living in comfort. In Gundam, Zeon is often depicted as fighting for ideals on scant resources. While the Earth Federation, aside from General Reveal, is treated as hopeless, often used as satire of politicians. This Gundam lecture uses only the TV series as its text. We avoid most of the settings added later. We stick to differences we can read from the TV version between Zeon and the Federation. And by asking what director Yoshiyuki Tomino depicts in this drama, we try to gain even more. Why spend more than 30 minutes talking about each 30-minute episode of an old show? People often say, this work set out to depict X. You can verify that by interviewing the creators and staff. Ah, so that's what they intended. I read those too, but I also want to build my own reading. At this age, I see new things. Oh, Gundam yields discoveries like this. It's fun. So, as always, my own imagination is mixed in. Let me unpack Episode 4, Escape from Luna 2, from the beginning. First, what is Luna 2? Here's a simple diagram I made. There's Earth, the Moon, and on the Moon's far side is Luna 2, a small, multi-kilometer asteroid likely brought from the belt to mine materials for a lunar base. Around the Moon are 6 Lagrange points where gravity balances. At those points sit gigantic space colonies, human habitable islands in space. On the far side lies Zeon. As the narration says, Side 3 declared the Principality of Zeon and challenged the Earth Federation. So the first thing Zeon seized was, of course, then they pressed the other colonies. Are you with Earth or with Zeon? And most of them declared neutrality. Some may have said, we side with Zeon, but the TV version isn't clear. What is clear is that one or more colonies were dropped on Earth, wiping out half of humanity. So while specifics are fuzzy, in space, Zeon effectively holds command of space. In my map, red is Zeon, yellow is neutral, blue is the Earth Federation's influence. At this point, the Federation has only Earth and Luna 2. Side 7 was originally neutral, but because the Federation built a secret weapon there, its pro-Earth stance was exposed. And Zeon shows no mercy to neutrals, secretly helping the Federation. After all, apart from Earth and Luna 2, Zeon holds almost everything. That's hard to grasp from the TV alone. But diagrammed like this, you can see Zeon has subjugated or threatened the Moon and most colonies, with only Luna 2 left as the Federation's forward base. So why has Luna 2 survived? First, Zeon's budget. Second, because it's not worth the trouble. Let me explain those two. Zeon doesn't have infinite forces. To take a space fortress, you need fleets, strategy, and investment in people and weapons. Is Luna 2 worth all that? In early Gundam, you almost never see Federation ships traveling through space. It's almost only Zeon ships, meaning Zeon already controls space. Given that, there's no need to spend big to capture Luna 2. The Federation has almost no space fleet at this stage. There are only a few ships berthed at Luna 2. So Zeon can say, why bother? They spare the expense and look the other way. Second, not worth the trouble sounds odd. But Luna 2 only matters to the Federation when they launch a full counteroffensive against Zeon, soon or far in the future. Only then, when dispatching a huge fleet toward the Moon or Zeon homeland, does it have value. Until then, it's useless. Think of it like the Spratly Islands to China, or America's former Guam base, a forward post whose meaning depends on future operations. The farther your front extends, the harder it is to sustain, and maintenance costs soar. Right now, Luna 2 isn't worth taking for Zeon, nor is it something the Federation can use in the next few months. It won't change the war today, though it's crucial for the eventual pushback, so they want to keep it. So after taking the moon and colonies, Zeon left Luna 2 and dropped to Earth to begin a planetary invasion. Australia, where a colony hit, is wiped out. North America, Russia, China, and the Atlantic are under Zeon. Europe, Africa, and the Pacific are Federation-held or contested. That's Earth's situation at this point in Mobile Suit Gundam. Why can't Zeon control all of Earth? Again, manpower and national power. Zeon probably never thought they could rule the whole planet. They expected early surrender, but the Federation resisted. Now both sides can't find an exit. With the moon in Zeon's hands, they control most space lanes, the stage of this story. The Earth Federation has no other space stations besides Luna 2. Neutral colonies won't resupply or help. Maybe you can buy provisions, that's all. So for the Federation, Luna 2 is the one and only springboard to retake space, but until a grand counteroffensive, it's a white elephant. They don't even have a fleet to defend it properly. So to keep Luna 2 alive, the most important thing is to stay inconspicuous. If Zeon decides we must smash Luna 2, that becomes a crisis, so invisibility is its survival strategy. That's why Wakkein seems like a rule-bound stiff, and the Federation looks inept. Maybe they are inept. But above all, Luna 2's unique status matters. If they stand out, Scary Dozel's Abbey will dispatch the space fleet. So until the Federations come back, about 6 months later, they must, if not play dead, then at least keep their heads down. Lie low, we'd be a hassle to take, not worth the cost. That's the Luna 2 commander's role. Thus, when Char's cruiser appeared, Wakkein immediately chose to ignore it. Char is a seasoned ace. He's smart and won't attack with a lone-light cruiser. In other words, we do nothing too. We both know it's an airspace incursion, but let's look the other way. That isn't incompetence. It's a sophisticated decision, grounded in what Luna 2 represents to both Zeon and the Federation. But then White Base arrived. And as I said, the Federation has no space fleet. Even Luna 2's supply line is shaky. If hordes of refugees show up, food logistics collapse. They're barely feeding themselves. On top of that, White Base appears to be a new Federation weapon. It even carries a new mobile suit. Hold on. We don't know what it is. And sure, it'll help in the eventual counteroffensive. But if you bring it here now, the Luna 2 we've kept quiet will stand out. If Zeon attacks here, we lose Luna too. And that's not about Wakkein's position. Losing a strategically vital base for the future comeback would be the worst outcome. So he wants White base out fast. Lingering to resupply will draw Zeon's eye, to send to Earth at once. Even if they say, we want to drop off civilians, he answers, they can't survive here. Go to Earth and land at Jaburo. Then we can decide your status, trying to keep the peace. People call that hard-headed or self-protective, and maybe there's some of that. But, from the wider structure, Luna 2 is like Japan between the US and the USSR, or now between the US and China, hoping to be... It's that kind of place. Wakkein is a major, the sector commander of Luna 2, yet addressed as Major Wakkein. Why a major? Because it's like a caretaker for a vacation home, important later, but idle for now. A theater commander could be a general, or at least a colonel or lieutenant colonel. Why just a young major? Because he's the caretaker. But he knows this villa will matter later. He understands his role. His job is to keep Luna 2 out of pointless power struggles and to stay alive. If he dies, higher-ups will scramble to install their own men at Luna 2. And if an inept commander arrives and tries to grandstand or over-defend, Zeon may exploit that and Luna 2 could fall. So Wakkein walks a razor's edge. Stay unseen and survive, and avoid being replaced. There are sane Federation officers, General Revel, Captain Paulo Cassius, who understand strategy. They form a faction or two. As part of that camp, he thinks, I absolutely must not act rashly here. He could break rules and shelter White base on his own authority, but if someone tattled and undercut him, long-term they could lose Luna 2. Knowing that, he acts overly cautious. Captain Paulo understands this too, so he doesn't condemn Wakkein's approach. You start to appreciate this adult back and forth around 50. Ah, Wakkein, nicely done. Laughs. But Bright Noah and Amuro Ray can't see that at all. Okay. End of the first half. While the first half video was playing, I rearranged the shelf a bit, like a spot the difference. What changed? Feel free to comment. I won't say whether you're right. Laughs. In the first half, I talked less about the plot of Episode 4 itself, and more about Luna 2's position on the overall map and Wakkein's survival strategy. The Federation's internal politics I described frankly mirror Sunrise at the time, the Gundam team versus the rest. Back then, Sunrise said, our flagship is the Ultraman, and poured main staff into what should have been subcontracted work, leaving Tomino's Gundam team to scrape by in a leftover space, basically a storeroom, while they still hustled to gather talent and make Mobile Suit Gundam. Management said, we expect great things, but you know how it is, the division keeping the company afloat isn't really valued. That's universal. So they wove that contradiction into their story. Push in the wrong places at work and you can hurt your own standing. In the second half, the highlight is a single line Paulo Cassius says to Commander Wakkein near the climax. Let them do as they wish. I'll take responsibility. Hearing that, Wakkein thinks for over 7 seconds before answering, understood. Right now, you can watch the entire series on Amazon Prime Video. Check it out. From I'll take responsibility to understood, Wakkein holds a very long beat. Sadly, the drawings in this episode are so rough that what should be conveyed doesn't fully land. The biggest reading point in episode 4 is, what is Wakkein thinking during that pause? That scene's meaning is quite deep. Tomino likely intended it that way, trusting that junior high and high school viewers would catch the message, but even Gundam fans mostly missed it, which led to his despair. In interviews about Gundam, he often faced questions that made him think, why ask about that? Or why can't they grasp Wakkein better? I think that despair fed Tomino's post-Gundam slump. So in the second half, watch the exchange between Wakkein and Paulo closely. Okay, switching to the paid stream now. By the way, I swapped a few models on the shelf. That's your answer check. Alright, let's continue with the second half. Go ahead.